Welcome to another Goose Tiny Table, and today we're going to be talking about how followers don't make you rich. It's a pretty interesting misconception that what we all sort of want is naturally some money and fame, maybe just a little bit on the side, but a lot of times we don't realize, well, maybe even most of the time, that it doesn't usually mean what you think it might mean, which would be high number of followers, especially if you're coming from the social media direction, which a lot of people aspire to do. Now, why is that exactly? Well, there's three reasons for it. There's audience versus community, which I'll talk about right now. There's attention versus relationships, and then there is views versus customers. There's a very important reason why those things are separate. And by explaining them, you will understand not only why the system doesn't work quite that way, but what system would work better. Okay, so right off the bat, audiences versus community. When we talk about a number of followers, let's say you're able to get something viral. A lot of times that's what we say we want to do, but when you get something viral, you get a wide swath of people that are interested in that thing. And while that could seem interesting and desirable at the beginning, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can monetize it, because there's going to be a lot of different interests in there. Something viral that has massive people does not necessarily invite someone to get deeper into that thing. So you're sort of getting into the difference between like audience and community. Now, what I'll give as the example is the number of people that I know directly that are big users of Skool, for example, or just mega influencers. You'll find pretty often that they get stuck in a hamster wheel that's not totally unlike having a 9-to-5 gig. It will seem different from the outside looking in, and certainly the numbers are a bit different. So, there is that difference. But there can be a lot of people that do this that feel pretty unhappy about it. So let me explain. Take John. I'll say John here. He has about 5 million followers. There's also Sam. He has about 4. Jenny has about 3. Okay. They all have millions of followers. Pretty sweet deal, you might think, right? It just makes money happen? Well, no, not necessarily. Where they get most of their money, on average between 70 and 80% from the people that I've spoken to just over the years, is actually from brand partnership deals. Now, that could sound really exciting at the beginning, but as you sort of stack them up, and it's like a Porsche here, a Samsung there, the most desirable, right, of brand partnership deals, what you end up finding is that working with giant corporate guys is fucking miserable. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to do that yet, but if you do get to, you'll probably realize pretty quickly that it's not the most desirable thing. Now, if you're lucky, you get to work with some smaller guys, but they don't necessarily pay as well, right? Either way, though, the bigger picture here is that when you're talking about doing ads or promos for these partnerships, you're getting paid per. So that means even if you put, say, Spotify into your YouTube video, which is a common thing that was happening for a number of years, well, then now they pay you once for a video that continues to garner views over years, probably. And that, while sounding really cool on the outside, ends up meaning that, well, what are you going to have to do when you need an extra cash injection? You're probably going to have to make another brand partnership, right? So it's still the hamster wheel. You've now gone back to trading time for money. It's just larger amounts of money per trade. Now, of course, that might be more desirable when you're not making any money online, but when you're talking about really breaking into the game of like finding freedom, which is what we're always talking about, this isn't necessarily that. So at the core of it, what is the difference between audience and community? The audience is the range of people that can consume your content just on the merits of what it is. Meanwhile, the community is people that felt something from it and therefore decided to take another step. You could almost call them leads, right? Leads would be people that are interested and possibly going to convert. Meanwhile, and customers are, of course, where you want to take them. But when you're talking about community, that's somewhere in there where they have started out as external audience and are slowly converting into people that are passionate about what you're doing and what you're talking about. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now the second part, attention versus relationships. Now, when you're out there getting attention, again, it's kind of on the back of what we were talking about before. Attention and virality, there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, it can complement everything else that you're doing. However, when we're talking about just generally having a bunch of eyeballs on what you're doing, you really have to imagine what's the relationship that you're getting from each person or each 1,000. So when you, a simple way of looking at this is, for example, how much you get paid per click or per view on YouTube. A lot of us know about this, but if you're in the money niche, you're earning a lot more per view on an ad than you are in any other niche, right? Because money makes money. That's usually how it works anyways. So when the same thing stands true for when you're talking about clients, where the audience, the people that are coming in, how much attention that they're actually giving you, doesn't directly correlate to how you're able to make them feel on a consistent basis, right? You want them to ideally have a relationship with you that even if they don't know you personally, they've seen you on multiple occasions, ideally more than once, so much so that they can form an opinion about you. And an opinion usually results in emotion. And an emotion usually results in action, at least if it's a good emotion. It'll certainly turn into engagement if it's a negative one, but we're always optimizing just for them feeling some kind of way. We're leaning into the human experience after all in order to leverage these things. And finally, views versus customers. Now this is the final way that I can really break this down in order that you can really soak in how important this is going to be on your business lifetime journey, whether you're making a personal brand or not. But more views does not mean more customers. And I'll give you an example. There's a very well-known software that many of us use. And just the other week, I had met their highest affiliate. And what was interesting about that system was the highest paid affiliate who, I mean, he's crushing it compared to the competition. And the competition is other affiliates that have giant audiences that really lean heavy on making a ton of content and following up on all of that stuff with CTAs. And yet, he has shown up in the industry as someone who, even though he gets very few views relative to the rest of them, is able to make more than any of them just by himself. And it's pretty cool to see that. That's not an anomaly. It happens all the time. So what's interesting about this is as you see more and more of it, you start to see how when the view isn't the customer, it truly isn't. What you're actually doing, ideally, in a perfect world, is making content that is so focused and directed at a particular person that needs the service or product that you're describing, that if you just keep repeating it over and over again, eventually, what do? They interact with it. And that, my friends, is what makes a community stem from the initial contact point of a customer versus a view. Okay? Now, that's not to say that views don't increase the likelihood that you will have more chances to reach those customers. However, you cannot rely on that by itself, and you should always have a more micro focus on a niche, a certain angle, and the repetition of that, rather than just relying purely on virality. Okay, so in summary, make sure that you're focusing on customers, not just views, relationships, not just attention, and community, not just your audience. Hope that helps. Have fun, make friends. I'll see you guys later. Okay, bye-bye.